To show you how far we've come, this is a cartoon from New York Times in 1909, and they imagined how strange and funny it would be if American students were learning Chinese language from a Chinese teacher. Today, this is completely normal. Right? So viewed through the lens of the past, the difference from today is really apparent. In 2010, there is no cultural fault line that divides Confucian civilization from Western civilization, as Samuel Huntington had predicted in the infamous Clash of Civilizations thesis. Today, Chinese culture is an integral part of American culture itself. So in my mind, this amounts to nothing short of a paradigm shift. A shift from viewing Chinese culture and American culture as separate, from viewing Chinese culture as a national culture to a world culture. And in fact, the Chinese state is very aware of this and attempting to project their soft power by promoting the teaching of Chinese language and culture throughout North America with the Confucius Institutes. Now, very briefly, I would like to explore another aspect of Chinese culture. Right? At the same time as becoming a world culture, global migration and intermarriage are changing what it means to be Chinese today. Growing numbers of the young generation are very proud to say that they're Chinese, but they're Chinese and something more. And I want to give you some very interesting examples from the wonderful students I've had the opportunity and privilege to teach at MIT. There is a student who was born in China, but grew up in Israel before he came to MIT to be a student. Another student was born in the US of Taiwanese immigrant parents, but grew up in China before coming back to the US. So these third culture kids really see themselves as belonging not to just one culture, but multiple cultures and languages. And here we see in this slide a picture of a famous American author, Lisa C. Her great-great-grandfather came from China to America, and although you look at her, she doesn't look Chinese on the outside, she is very proud to say, "I am Chinese in my heart." So the young generation of global migrants, the third culture kids, and doubles are creating new identities that are working to transcend the old, narrow, nationalistic ideas of identity and expand what it means to be Chinese in a global world. This generation is reshaping culture by choosing from different cultures and different languages and new medias, new technologies to create their own meanings of culture. As one of my wonderful students put it so eloquently, my sense of culture is like a picnic basket. I choose from whatever culture I like and put into my basket, and I carry my basket around with me wherever I go. These are precisely the phenomenon that MIT's Center for Bilingual and Bicultural Studies are dedicated to further understanding. So in closing, I would like to say that my message for what we can do to change the world and teach the young generation comes actually not from what I teach my students, but what my students teach me. And that is, the young generation show us that culture is not only inherited or transmitted down from generation to generation, but it's also created. And you here in the front are the creators of the culture of the future. This culture is fluid and dynamic. It escapes the static labels like Chinese and American. And so the younger generation of global migrants, my students, what does it mean for them to be Chinese? They tell me it is filial piety, it is reading the classical Chinese literature that their parents grew up with, it is practicing Chinese calligraphy, but it's also drinking bubble tea and listening to Jay Chou and F4 and playing Chinese video games. So this is their definition. The new generation see themselves not belonging to a single culture, but as world citizens. They use their bilingual or even multilingual skills to open up new doors for them in the future, in their career paths, whether that be in engineering or in science, humanities, arts, or businesses. So it is this vision of the future, then, one that really embraces change and new culture at the same time as maintaining a vital link to the heritage of the past, that I believe that we should embrace. One of multiple cultures, multiple languages, that looks beyond fundamentalisms of any kind that we all must embrace as we move to the 2020 future. Thank you. 谢谢各位。